Welcome to the Echoes of Alchemy podcast. My name is Jay Robinson, and I'm coming to you from Lotus Sound Studio in beautiful downtown Collingwood, Ontario, Canada, where we provide sound baths, sound training, day retreats, yoga nidra, kirtan, and so much more. As grounded, passionate, and dedicated students of ancient and modern sound practices, our team supports yogis, spiritual practitioners, meditators, musicians, artists, and those looking to amplify their intuition, inner power, and purpose with our one-of-a-kind, unplugged gatherings and sound bath artistry training. Our mission is to inspire a holistically infused lifestyle, utilizing natural, highly effective, and accessible sound wellness practices, and to contribute to the health, happiness, and spirit of our community. Today, Justine and I are speaking with Stacey Bliss, PhD and fellow Gong enthusiast, and Stacey came to visit us last summer in 2023 as a part of a cross-Canada study she was doing with the University of Regina, studying the ethnography of sound healers in Canada. Really cool stuff. And she's coming back this summer, and we have a free event, a very special free event happening with Stacey at Lotus Sound Thursday, July 25th at 7 p.m. And you can sign up and register for this on our website, lotussound.ca. And it's the 7 Keys to Life, Gong research themes, and sound bath. So we're going to collaborate, the three of us, Justine and I, and Stacey, on a sound bath. Visit lotussound.ca and register today. Elevate your understanding of sound and become a beacon of transformative vibration for yourself and others with the Lotus Sound 3-day sound immersion training, deep dive into sound bath artistry. We have sessions open for registration August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and November 15th, 16th, and 17th. Visit lotussound.ca/sound training and join us for one of our upcoming 3-day training immersions. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you will enjoy it. Be sure to follow, rate, and share. Enjoy. Welcome to this episode of Echoes of Alchemy with Lotus Sound. My name is Jay, and I'm here with
Justine.
And we have a very, very special guest with us today. Stacey Bliss, PhD, is an educator, researcher, and improviser. Her interests include critical studies in improvisation, sound studies in education, trauma-informed education, as well as sonic and performative ethnography. Stacey is a guest scholar at the Humanities Research Institute, University of Regina, and the recipient of an SSHRC Insight Development Grant, 2021-2024, to study Gong practices in varying Canadian provinces. She is a research associate with an IICSI, International Institute for Critical Studies in Improvisation at the University of Guelph, and a collaborator with local and national scholars, musicians, and artists. When not teaching and researching, Stacey enjoys taking walks, biking the bike paths in Calgary or Regina, and listening to rural and urban soundscapes. And you can learn about her Gong research on her YouTube channel that we'll link in the notes for this show, as well as her website, blissresearch.org, which will also be linked in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much for being with us, Stacey. It's an honor to talk with you.
Yay! Thanks for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be with you and talk with you about all things sound and Gong and the body related.
Yeah, we've got a mutual love for Gong, for sure. And
yeah, we met in Toronto at a little Gong workshop. I remember that fondly, and seems so long ago now.
Yeah, that was 2019, I think it was.
5 years.
The Lotus Yoga.
Yeah, in Toronto.
That was a really beautiful day too. That was like, I think the first time we spent a lot of time with just a room full of people that were all, totally into Gong. So it was, we're all from the same kind of place meeting. And it was really, really, really interesting day. So fun.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
really
was
nice when like-minded folks get together, and then there's kind of understood language around what you're doing, even though it's really hard to put things into words. Where our practices are concerned, coming into the room with other people is a relief, because then you don't have to find the words so much to explain what's going on. There's a felt understanding.
Yeah, for sure. And so last year we were so blessed to have you come and visit us. You're doing your study across Canada in 2023. Do you want to speak a bit about that and what it was about, where the idea came from, and what came from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2023, I went across Canada, 4 provinces, with a student research assistant from the University of Regina, Sam Liamazan. And we documented what's happening with sound in different communities. So the ethnographic question is what's going on? And that's kind of a socio-cultural question that ethnographers and anthropologists use to go into communities and see what's going on. So my question was what's going on with sound in communities towards well-being and a kind of curriculum or a pedagogy. So a teaching or a learning about sound and through sound for both the facilitators in each area as well as what's happening for their participants and their attendees to their events. So we started in Halifax, and there was a couple there doing work with folks with military and PTSD folks, and giving gong baths in Halifax, living in a small town in Nova Scotia, but coming into Dartmouth and Halifax and serving different communities across Nova Scotia. And then we came to you in Collingwood, to Ontario, and found a beautiful studio and your beautiful outdoor offering on Sundays to bring community together. So it was really beautiful to see the Sunday offering bringing all ages, all people, and even puppies together. It was a puppy there that day we were there. Bringing their voices, bringing their bowls if they have them, or just bringing their bodies to a circle. And gorgeous location where you have it there, the Arwen Gathering Place. Did I say it right?
Arwen Gathering Place,
The Arwen Gathering Place, and the significance of that as well. It is a gathering that you're hosting there. And then we went to Saskatchewan, and we talked to a couple of people that are in Saskatchewan. One's a trained musician, flutist, working with all ages, but also in the schools with younger kids, dealing with their stressors from daily life. And just being a kid nowadays is a little bit more stressful than for sure when I was a kid. And then an Indigenous gong player working with different groups and Indigenous men's groups, and folks of all ages as well. So I find Saskatchewan to be quite rich in the gong world right now. It's a smaller city, I would say, in Canada, but there's seemingly a lot going on with sound and trauma-informed study. I think because the Indigenous topics and issues are really close to the surface on the prairies. So there's some important work being done there. And then here in Alberta, we went to Sylvan Lake, and there's a studio in Sylvan Lake that serves the community with different practices, yoga, sound. So we documented, interviewed, got those videos together. Thank you to Sam, our beautiful research assistant, and put the videos on YouTube so people could access the folks talking about gong in each community, as well as a sound bath with the raw kind of sounds, everything being included. So we didn't edit too much out, which for the kind of perfectionist in me is a little bit daunting not to do too much editing, but we wanted to keep the soundscape feeling a little bit more natural, you could say, or a little bit more like it would be in the environment we were in. So that gives you an overview of going across Canada. So we were gong across Canada last summer.
Yeah.
So cool.
And the videos were such a beautiful mixture, like you said, of those raw sounds, as well as the very artistic, images of each community. Sort of
Mm,
curious if there was a reason why you chose sort of smaller areas opposed to big
mhm.
cities.
Yeah, I think because I started off in Toronto and I knew there were offerings in big cities more so than smaller local communities. So I was interested in the Gong practitioners taking the learnings from big cities. Like we learned together in Toronto, I learned in New York. So people come to big cities to kind of learn a little bit more from those that have experience in Gong, and then they go back to their local communities. So I wondered, what's that all about? Going to a local community, a smaller community with this modality that is unusual. And so there was something there to explore for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like Justine said, the artistic value and the way that the videos were done is really beautiful. It's also interesting. And again, the link to Stacey's YouTube channel will be in the show notes, so you can check out all of these videos we're talking about. But I found it really interesting that we've got our circle, our awe when gathering place, and then there was also another video, I think, with is it Sundance Robson, where there's also it seemed to be an indigenous artistic circle of some kind too. There, I found it really interesting. This
Oh, yeah.
this this
So
circle thing.
in Regina, there's a beautiful sculpture. It's a Joe Fafard sculpture.
Oh,
Joe
nice.
Fafard is a Canadian artist. And there's another Indigenous sculpture, All Our Relations, I think it's called. Those two sculptures were featured in the drone video that Sam drove the drone, and we were able to take some drone images in each of the areas we were at. Yeah, and there's something circular that pops up generally
Yeah.
in each
Yeah.
video. That's kind of fun. And of course, the gongs are circular. So,
It all ties in, but I found it really interesting, and it's really nice too. The videos, because they're artistic, and with the drone, it really shows like the area, the geography that the different sound healers or practitioners were in, that they're creating this. So a really nice visual component too. Um,
yeah, and I think the what you're gesturing to there, I think, is an important link between us and the land and our mm, connection with the land. We might not feel it on our in our day-to-day living, especially if we're in larger cities, but more locally, there's seemingly more connection to land in your community, especially when you go every Sunday. You're all sitting on the land, you're sitting on the earth, and you're having that deep connection with the soundscapes all around in the trees, with the wind and the birds and the people playing around and talking and enjoying themselves in the park. So there's a sense of interconnectivity when we look at the land, of course, in a different way with a drone, but then also sitting on the land like you do in your circle.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can sort of feel that deep connection with the earth, and it's like you're vibrating with it while we're sitting there.
Mhm.
It was such an honor to have you there, and everyone was so excited to have you two as guests for our Sunday circle that day. So that was a great
Yeah,
memory. And
it was
yeah, it
really
was
a pleasure to be there. And your voice, Justine, is wonderful. Uh, I was sitting near
you.
you, so I got really your vibes that day as well. And you've got a powerful instrument within your body.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Um, I was curious, you had mentioned New York for your training when you got into the Gong. What brought you to the Gong?
Oh yeah. So I heard Gong at a in a Kundalini yoga class in Shavasana. And I had a reaction like, what is this? This is something new and something that allows me to just shake down all my thought processes and my cognitive computations going on in the mind. I felt like, oh, I can really shake down here. And so I wondered about it. One of my roommates at the time, I lived in an ashram in Toronto. One of my roommates had a gong for his offerings and his yoga and yoga teachings and offerings. I asked if I could borrow the gong, and he said no. And I asked a few more times, no, no. So there's of course, with an instrument, it's like trying to borrow somebody's saxophone or drum kit. Like
Yeah.
it's not, it's a personal thing, right?
For sure.
So I asked 3 times and then it was no, no, no. And I thought, okay, I got to get a gong. I don't know how I'm going to afford a gong. I'm a PhD student, but I'm going to get it. So I did. I got a gong and I started playing it and kind of just building a relationship with it. That sounds strange, but we do. We have relationships, I think, with our instruments, including our
100%.
own
Absolutely.
instrument within ourselves. And
Mhm.
yeah, so got the gong and then realized, I wonder if there's training out there. So start Googling about training. And that's where I found John Conroe doing his training in New York. And I had missed by a couple of weeks of the first part of a 2-part training. So I emailed them and I said, can I hop on board the second part, even though I haven't done the first part? And they said, sure, come on, let's go. So I started learning through Don Conroe in Integral Yoga Studio in New York City.
Just a few
Amazing.
years ago then.
Yeah, that was 2000, I think 18, 19.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Probably a
Cool.
year before I met you.
Oh, so you really dove right in. It really called to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It called to me in a way that I couldn't really deny. You know, when you get that feeling like you have to do something or go forwards with something,
Mhm.
it's strong. So I had the strong calling, and I never anticipated that it would intersect with my scholarly studies. I picked it up for myself as a kind of inner exploration for myself and
Mhm.
thought it would be parallel learning to what I was learning in my PhD. But I was thrilled that there's such a thing in academia called sound studies in education and somatics and uh, critical studies in improvisation. So I, I was kind of blown away and happy that I could merge my two learnings, my personal learning and deep dive into kind of well-being practices, as well as my scholarly learning.
I think that really speaks to like it being a practice for you to begin with. Like the gong wasn't something that you were like, I'm going to be a professional gong player. I'm going to hit the road and do gigs. It was a personal practice that really struck a
Mhm.
chord with you and then merged with the rest of your life, essentially. And I see that with us too, as we got into our sound practices, just something we were doing at home for ourselves to connect with, our inner selves, our heart. And
And as a couple
yeah,
in a
that's right.
relationship too. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. How does
That's
it? Okay, I have a question for you.
yeah,
How does
nice.
it
Sure.
improve your relationship? So Gong taught me a lot about myself as well as being in relationship. So I'd love to hear what has it done for your relationship?
It's hard to know because we don't have anything to compare it to, really. But Justine and I sing every day. We play all the time, so it's been a pretty important and continues to be a pretty important component.
I think it's another way of communicating
Yeah.
together and without this judgment upon it too, or worrying about a reaction or something. We get to freely express. But as we continue to connect through music, a lot of the other foolish things sort of melt away.
Mm.
And we've got to express ourselves and communicate, even though it's through the instruments, and you get a lot of that stuff out. And,
Mm.
and even though that's not why you sit down to do it, but I can feel in our relationship. There's moments, where maybe we would go through where we haven't practiced together as much
Right.
as maybe like a little time, like we get busy and we're not playing together like at home or practicing as much. And I can feel it. It's just our relationship is maybe a little less smooth
Mm,
when we haven't played, and the music brings more melody and harmony into the relationship.
mm,
Yeah, it's been really, it continues to be a journey, right? We're always learning the whole time. And our sound baths that we do together have continued to evolve too. And we learn a lot from, it's really a listening practice too, right? We're playing and we're listening. So when it comes to relationships or, other people dealing with the world, the gong or any instrument that we're listening or playing with that kind of intention only makes us a better listener. And the better we're listening, the better we can serve the people that we care about and our communities and our families. And that's
yeah, right on,
where it's
right on.
all
This
at.
is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is what I love about the power of sound and music and the power of the gong. It allows us to, as you say, listen more deeply and shake down judgments. And that's a tricky thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We judge each other so vehemently these days with socials. We're always liking things like. So that means things that you don't like, right? The chasm becomes larger between things we like and we don't like. And we see that in our personal preferences on socials. We see that in our personal preference when we meet people. And then politically, we see that chasm widening, um,
Hmm.
especially here in North America, we can see that. So I find that this coming back to sound, coming back to our internal gong as a hum, and if we have some sort of external instrument to work with, coming back to that is coming back to our nature, right? It's taking us back to the nature, which includes harmonic stuff and dissonant stuff.
Hmm.
So the vibes that we jive with, and it's the vibes that we are not keen with as well. The gong allows us to go to some of those dissonant places sometimes with different sounds that we're like, oh, I don't know if I enjoy that sound. But then it passes, and we're like, oh, this is training for sounds that I don't agree with, sounds that I don't enjoy. They're going to come and go, just like harmonics come and go. Dissonance comes and goes. I like the gong for that. It trains us and it kind of shakes down the duality
Oh
of
yeah. Yeah.
like, don't like, good, bad. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that. Did you say the our hum is the internal gong?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love
That's one
that.
of the huge teachings of Don Conroe. One of the themes is you are a gong. You are
Mm,
it. And he says that your first teaching, learning experience with a physical gong outside of you is to play it, strike it softly, lean in, listen, and hum along with it. Try to find entrainment or a similar tone to the gong that you're playing as part of the learning. So you're using your hum to tune or tone alongside the instrument that you're playing. And then later he'll say, you don't actually need a gong, physically, one of the instruments, because you
mm,
are it. So if you're playing well with your own thoughts and your own vibe inside, as well as you're playing your instrument well with others, then you're being a gong. You are it. Um, so I like that because it connects us with other people in a way that is conscious and it is a way that is kind of musical together, um, and reminds us that our inner vibration is so important.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
absolutely.
That's awesome. And we call that priming the gong, right? We're playing it. So we do that all the time. We also share that with people in our sound training to prime their gong and to hum with it. So
Yeah.
that all comes from the Don Conroe lineage. And for
Yeah.
anybody that's listening that isn't sure or doesn't know, Don Conroe is a gong master, really, really um, experienced gong master. He's been at it for ages. And so you learned with him in New York. Were you drawn specifically to Don Conroe himself, or was it just that that was the gong training that happened to pop up in your field when you were looking for it?
Yeah, that one seemed to be the most notable at the time.
Yeah.
Now there's different trainers, but Don has been around for a long time. And he started in the yoga community and in the 60s and 70s and been working with sound since then. And he's in his 80s now. And when
Mhm.
I met him, he was in his 80s, so he's going to be in his late 80s now. He's still training and teaching overseas when he can and online through the pandemic. So he's been at it for a long time. When I studied with Don, I knew there would be some more connection with him. So when I figured out that my personal learnings could intersect with the academic learnings, I realized, oh, I can do an ethnographic, what's going on kind of research project with Don. And I found another international teacher in the UK, Sheila Whitaker. So one of my projects was to follow Sheila's curriculum and pedagogy. So they're kind of ideas for teaching and learning, and to follow Dawn in India as well, and to see what they were teaching and how they were teaching, and how that could be related to everybody. So not just people interested in gong and sound in particular, but what they were teaching seemed particularly resonant and relevant for us to learn internally and externally how to deal with the world, right? So that was my SSHRC postdoctoral study and my SSHRC Insight Development Grant study. They're both really finding out what's going on in terms of the teaching and learning of Gong and how that can reach out and relate to many people, and how we're living in the world with each other right now, because we're seemingly at a huge precipice of conflict and difficulty.
Mm.
So I'm wondering, how can sound help and be an antidote to conflict and difficulty?
Well, and as we see, it's exploding, like in yoga classes, maybe even go for a massage, and your massage therapist is adding some singing bowls or gong. As
Hmm.
someone, there's a couple people in town with that do facials, and they have gongs hanging on the wall. So
Hmm.
it's really coming into a lot of spaces and places, which sort of is that um, it's needed, and
Yeah.
people are recognizing it. So it's amazing to see it grow and to flourish.
Yeah, and it's happened in different cultures and different lineages for a long time. It's just come to the fore, I think, for a lot more people because of the popularity of it in especially the wellness community. But certainly the foundation for sound has been around for a long time.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the things we like to share in our sound training, and with anybody, of course, it would that would listen, is that all of us, no matter what our ancestry is, or where we're from, we have ancestors that used sound as medicine or ceremony. All of us, so we have this internal connection, and we've just kind of been most of us have been separated from it in that kind of way because it's more of a commercial thing, sound and music that we're first kind of introduced to these days. But we all have this connection. Our ancestors all practice sound in some way, and so
Yeah.
we're tapping back into that, right? We're rediscovering that connection. It seems like, or it feels like.
Yeah, there has been a disconnection or a disruption for a lot of people from themselves and their community. And so, shocking statistic here in Alberta, um, with the Alberta Health Services, 1 in 3 people have had traumatic events or experiences.
Mm.
That means 1 in 3 people, according to Gabor Mate and Bessel van der Kolk, 1 in 3 people have been disrupted from themselves and disrupted from their communities. That means they're working from a sympathetic nervous system, and they're working from fight, flight, freeze
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah.
1/3 of the population in Alberta. That
Wow.
is
That's
astounding.
wild.
It's astounding to me. So any modality that can allow people to come back to connection with themselves and with other people, that's what I'm interested in studying. And that's what I'm interested in doing for a long time, and being around people like yourselves that are tapped into that as well, because that reconnection is integral for a lot of us. So I'm going to say integral for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of us and the nature and
that's right.
the earth, everything. Yeah. I would also love to ask you about improvisation because it seems to be a very important piece for you. It is for us as well. We love music with that
That spirit.
has that, yeah, the spirit of improvisation, and it comes up with
Yeah.
you quite a bit.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I intersected the studies of well-being and the scholarly work was through the critical studies and improvisation group called IC in Guelph at the University of Guelph. And they're really concerned with not just the improvisation of music or theater, but how concepts or precepts of improvisation can help us in daily life and with our social conflicts and social situations. So improvisation is really key, I think, and critical for us to live together well with each other. But it's a practice. It's a funny thing because improvisation is not just, oh, going with the flow and oh, I can do whatever I want. It it really means you have a good uh, handle on your instrument.
Yeah.
And so in musical terms, improvisers, they learn their instrument first. They spend a lot of years learning how to play. And then they can start improvising in a very conscious way that involves listening and reacting and responding, right? So similarly, if we are a gong, we have to be well with ourselves for a lot of years before we can start to improvise well with others. So
Mm.
that means the themes from this research are really three foundational themes that build up our own instrument, if you will, with our body and our voice and our thinking and our way of being. And then four social themes that allow us to go out. And one of those themes is improvising. So when I come back to Collingwood to be with you in July, that's one of the themes that we'll talk about is improvisation. And I'll have cards with different themes on them. So one of the themes is
Nice.
improvisation. And Jay, your quote is on this card. And then I have a quote from Don Conroe as well. And he says, life is the big improvisation, as we all know. So we have to be masters of improvisation, which means the ego is not involved. You do what the great spirit of love and humanity wants you to do. You don't know what you're going to say until you say it. Just like when you go to the gong, you don't know what you're going to play until you play it.
Love
And
that.
that's
I
from
love
I
Don.
it.
love it.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're doubling back now from your research last year, and you're coming back and you're visiting some of the places that you visited last year. You're revisiting,
Mhm.
and you're coming to see us on the 25th of July, so Thursday, July 25th. We're gonna have a very special event from 7 to 8:30, and this will be the 7 Keys to Life Gong research themes and sound bath. And we really look forward to collaborating with you for this beautiful night. And this will be a free offering as well. So you can sign up on our website, lotussound.ca. And there is
Awesome.
limited space. So
Yay.
definitely get on there and register yourself for this event. It's going to be great. And yeah, so there's going to be some humming, toning, priming our body, holistically tuned instruments. And then we'll do a sound bath collaboration with the three of us. So we're really excited for that. And I also wanted to say that your research really speaks to, and I really appreciate your research and your angle because you're coming at this the gong and the sound healing, which can really exist in kind of a realm of like I don't want to say woohoo, but that kind of like zone, and you're very academic with it and grounded. And we really, really resonate with the way that you're approaching it, and your intention for doing all of this is just so amazing. And I can't imagine there's anybody else in Canada doing similar research. Are you the only one doing this with the gong at this kind of level?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure. I think so. I've met people that are studying different types of improvisation and sound healing and somatics, but not with the gong that I've met so far. But I know Lee Bartel is doing some interesting, Dr. Lee Bartel is doing some interesting studies through the University of Toronto with sound and hertz, not gong, but hertz in
Mm.
particular. And hertz is a prescription for fibromyalgia, for Alzheimer's, for chronic stress. So his research is quite interesting to me. Um, yeah, and I do have to take a moment to thank the funding body of SSHRC, which is Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. So they really made this possible. So I submit my intention of what I want to study and how I want to study it, and they give me a pot of funding through the University of Regina that I work with so that I can research with folks like yourself, find out what's going on, and then go back into communities and share what I found, right? So this is possibly because of SSHRC Insight Development Grant study for this project. And I hope to do some more projects in the future. We'll see what happens with that. And I also want to thank the support that I got at University of Regina. So right now I'm a contract instructor. That means I'm not connected fully to just one university, but I was invited by Dr. Charity Marsh at University of Regina to be part of the Humanities Research Institute so that I could do this study. So I can't do this work without other people, and that includes SSHRC funding body, as well as folks at University of Regina, as well as folks like yourself, participants in the research. So it takes a kind of team that is important to the whole project. So I thank you too for being involved, and I thank the institutes that have been involved as well.
You're most welcome. Thank you for including us.
Absolutely.
And so, for the research, what do you imagine, or what do you hope to inspire with this research? Like, where do you see this body of work that you're helping to share? Where do you see this spreading?
Yeah, I'd like to the themes that I'll present at Lotus Sound in July with you two. Those themes I'd like to put together not only in a scholarly article, like as a scholar, I'm supposed to write scholarly articles that end up in academic journals that not a lot of people read. Well, some people read,
Right?
hopefully.
Hopefully,
But
people are reading it.
yeah, I want to write it in a book format so that it gets out to more people. So it'd be a small book and a primer on what the sound teachers have to teach us and how we can pull that forward in our daily lives for many people to learn from. So I'm hoping that it goes into a book format over the next little while. I'm not sure when that will happen, but that's my hope. And then also to keep studying and to go a little bit, take a little deeper dive with participants like yourselves and the folks in Regina in particular, doing work to bring community together in certain ways and different community, different ages. I think there's something to go deeper with. So I would like to devise another research around how sound can really deal with trauma. Because now knowing, like I know 1/3 of the folks here in Alberta have trauma-related experiences and events, and they're working from places that are really difficult in terms of the nervous system. So now that I know that statistic, I can't ignore it. And I want to put together sound study with trauma-informed education. And so that's
Yeah.
coming, I hope, next. Mhm.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So we need studies like this so that it can be opened up more in the schools and
Yes.
recovery centers,
Yes,
all sorts of places. So thank you for the work that your brilliant mind for bringing these thoughts into the material world.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I find it to be now my responsibility to keep going. And sometimes it's hard to keep going when
yeah,
something is not as mainstream or not as accepted or well known. But I think it's just part of who I am now to keep going in this trajectory.
yeah.
It's awesome. So your website, is that the best place for people to connect with you, to find out what you're up to?
Yeah, so
Blissresearch.org.
yeah, there's a little bit of information on blissresearch.org about who I am and what I've done and events. And then there's contact there as well. And then check out Gong Across Canada on YouTube to check out videos with folks like yourself and some relaxation sound experiences. So yeah, reach out if anybody has questions or commentary. They can definitely reach out through those two venues or those two modalities or those two places.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the for people listening to the YouTube channel, you could have a home sound bath with these recordings. You could set up, a little area, lay down, get comfortable, and have a sound bath with the recordings that you made from your track last year with the
Yeah.
sound healers across Canada. Really, really
Yeah,
beautiful
people
recordings.
set up a comfortable space with headphones on and not be distracted by the visuals, but just
Yeah.
have a sound experience, close their eyes. Your video with uh, didgeridoo and sitar and gong that starts with the crystal bowls, it has it all. And so it's a really nice one to click into on a regular basis if people are really into it, into sound, and that is helpful then definitely that would that would be great to go and
Yeah.
have it saved on someone's browser as their go-to sound experience.
Absolutely. So yeah, you can join Stacey, Justine, and I Thursday, July 25th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. for 7 Keys to Life, the Gong Research Themes and Sound Bath. And this is a free event. Again, grateful to SSHRC, the
Sure.
Social Sciences Research Council of Canada, Insight Development, in making this event possible. And
Yeah.
get on our website, lotussound.ca, and register. Spaces are limited. We'd love to have you join us. And again, thank you so much for visiting us. Do you have something to add?
I do. Before we let Stacey go,
Yeah.
2 questions. What was your first gong as a PhD student?
Oh yeah, it was 28-inch symphonic Paiste gong.
Beautiful.
Sweet.
And then
Yeah.
the other big question, do you hit in the center of the gong or not? Do we strike the center of the gong or not?
Well, I go pretty near the center, and I think the most important aspect is your intention and how you approach it. I approach it with kind of circular, soft striking. And inevitably, if I'm really intuitively playing there, and if I've got 2 mallets going and my eyes close, then I might be striking the center of the gong as I go along in different patterns or different rhythms or different strokes. So that's my answer.
Yeah,
Love that.
we'll take it. It's a big question,
Yeah.
but we've been there's opinions on all sides of it. So I
Yeah.
am always open to hearing another point of view.
Oh, and just out of curiosity, what would your answer be to that question?
Uh, well, again, it depends on what we're doing. We've played along with we had some guests at Lotus Sound, so they were playing the cello and what was the other instrument called? The
Yali Tambour.
Yali Tambour.
Wow.
Beautiful. Yes. Took me a moment to remember.
Yeah.
That was Michael Harris and Marta Solek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had us play Gong with them, their last song. we needed to play the center because it was the most in tune to play with those instruments because we were playing the planetary gongs, so the tuned gongs. So we played the center sort of intentionally with that. But often I do most often play around it just because I was first taught not to, because it was like the heart of the heart of the gong. And I don't even know where I heard that or who shared that with me, but it sort of stuck with me. But I'm in there sometimes, but I love a lot of the sounds on the outside of the gong.
There's one stroke that John teaches, I think it's called skipping. And you take the mallet across the gong.
Yeah.
So if you're really cognizant about not hitting the center, you might hold back a little bit.
Yeah.
That skipping stroke, if I'm a little bit more intuitive with it, it might strike the center.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm so scared about striking the center. And interesting that you said striking the heart. Our heart is beating in our body for us. So we're being struck at the heart regularly to keep us alive, right? So there's some power there, but I don't think we should be afraid of the power there.
Right.
I think we should respect it. And it is our natural instrument in the body keeping us alive, the heartbeat.
Yeah. The instrument we can hear.
That's right there.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much for
both.
being on the podcast, Stacey. And so Stacey's website and YouTube will be linked in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. And we look forward to seeing you on July 25th.
Yes, I'm thrilled to come back to Collingwood. We'll see you in July.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Stacey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Echoes of Alchemy with Lotus Sound. Be sure to follow, rate, and share, and unlock your sonic cosmic archetype with our free planetary pulse quiz at lotussound.ca, and discover what planetary energy you are most in alignment with right now, as well as what musical mode you are most in tune with, lotussound.ca. And for our 3-day sound immersion training, deep dive into sound bath artistry, visit lotussound.ca/sound training. We've got FAQs up there, video, testimonials, and all kinds of details. We'd love to have you join us. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.